Hey everyone, Danielle Fitzpatrick Clark here, your host of Light at the End of the Funnel, also CEO and female founder of Influence Builder. So, what are we talking about today? So, I want to talk about a couple things, and I really want to talk about resiliency when it has to do with sales. So what I find is that a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, people who maybe not in sales or haven't ingrained like the sales tactics or that piece into their brain, they can get really down when sales don't go their way. And don't get me wrong, even salespeople, when they don't make a big sale or something doesn't happen that they really want to happen in the sales process, then they get down too. um, but let's just say that this is about having resiliency when it comes to your sales process. So I like to think about the sales process as it relates to rebounds in basketball. So you guys may know this about me if you've been following me for any length of time. You may not. I love basketball. So it was one of the big sports that I grew up playing. My dad was a big basketball player in the state of Maine. He played for UMaine, which is our big university. I actually went and graduated from there too. So he played, geez, I don't want to age him, but I'd say in the 70s is when he played. And then he came back to our small town and he coached as well. He was very intense, is what I was told. I think he broke a lot of clipboards, that kind of stuff. So he was well known in the community for being a basketball coach and also a referee. And then of course he was my principal at my high school, and he was in the main principals association and all that stuff for basketball. So basketball is a big deal in our family. And I grew up loving basketball. Me and my brother played all the time. We had a very crappy hoop that was hooked up to our barn, and it was very hard to make a shot with that hoop that was attached to our barn. It was like nailed into the barn. And but I tell you what, you got really good at the swish shot for sure when it came to basketball because if you hit the rim in any way, it was going to bounce and it was going to bounce way further and in a place where you didn't think it was going to bounce. And ooh, on top of that, we didn't have a paved driveway. No, 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 not at all. We had a gravel driveway. So it would bounce and it would hit the dirt. And most of the time, it would hit an awkward dirt hole or rock and bounce in a completely different direction. So that was my early on experiences of playing basketball and practicing basketball was like, ooh, I better make sure that one, if I'm going to shoot it, I'm going to make a swish shot so it goes right through the net. And two, I better get that rebound immediately before it hits the ground or it's going to bounce in a totally different direction and I'm going to have to run a crazy amount of time just to get the ball again. So gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what it was like practicing basketball in my yard. But we grew up on a farm. We grew up where there wasn't a lot of neighbors. It was playing with my older brother and it was playing with my younger sister and it was playing sports or it was, chasing animals around, all that stuff. That's what we had to do. And when I was thinking about sales, the sales process, and I was thinking about basketball and what it was that I was taught to do, what it was that I had to do, just because of what we had available for our resources, meaning that what we had for our basketballs and what we had for our hoop and how that process was. I got to thinking that I'm like, I learned resiliency from a very, very young age. And so I really learned a lot from being a farm girl, yes, and also playing sports on a farm with lots of rocks and ways that the basketball could go, and I had to run around and chase it. So when I think about sales, I think about basketball, funny enough. And here's the first thing, and this is something that my dad taught me. And I've heard all these different ways of communicating this when it comes to basketball. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, or one's the right way and one's not the right way. I actually think it depends on the coach and the individual. But the follow through. So the follow through with a shot. So when you follow through with a shot, you hold the follow through, right? And that's what they say, hold that. Don't just throw it, run and like drop the arm. There's something about that follow through. It's the continual motion of when you're shooting. Um, for those of you that are watching the video, you can see me doing it. For those of you that are listening to the audio, you can't. But just know my arm's moving in a shot motion. Um, Okay, great. So the follow through is really important. The thing that my dad taught me is that defense is also extremely important in basketball. In fact, that was his favorite. At least that's what he told me, is that defense was his favorite part of basketball, being a good defender. And that you always want to be thinking of defense too. And to him, rebounding wasn't just offense, it was actually a defense. And being a really good rebounder, whether you're underneath the opponent's net or in your own area, your net, it's essential to be able to rebound, to be able to react, and to be able to react quickly. You guys can see why um, having that hoop that I grew up with and having it bounce off of these different holes is actually pretty advantageous to me when it comes to reacting very quickly. Um, they likened me to a cat because my reflexes were very quick. So, rebounding and using that and being able to do that. So, of course, the follow through is really important, but you also have to be able to react and to be able to pivot and be able to know exactly where, if that ball isn't going in swishing or banking into what was usually a much better hoop than what I had on the farm, then you were the person to know. If you were the shooter, you were the person to know exactly where it was going to go. So that's one of the advantages to shooting and to also following through and then to follow for the rebound. So because you have the bird's eye view. So I always think of sales as that too. Like, okay, so this is a thing where if you liken sales to taking a shot, a basketball shot, and how that's the execution, that's the persistence. So you want that shot, you want to get it in. Now the rebounding can get you another chance. So being able to act quickly, being able to know what direction to go in, you need that for sales too. So when it comes to sales, you're taking a shot, right? You're talking to somebody, you're on a sales call. Um, this is critical. You need to be able to do that. And it would be great to close that sale on the first call. Yeah. It'd be great to have a swish on that first shot too. What do you do? What do you do if you don't? Well, you got the follow through. You got the follow through. The follow through will help with that guidance system of the sale. So it's really critical to take the shot, right? Especially when you're open, take the shot and have the follow through in sales and in basketball. So what happens if there's any hesitation on um, your prospect's end? What if that shot doesn't go in? Well, you got to be prepared for the rebound. You have to be persistent with knowing where things are going ahead of time, and in sales that is really having a clear understanding of potential objections. So in sales, people they're not all the same. Sometimes people will have objections, sometimes they're not sure, and so it's really it's that's very normal too. I mean, they should have reservations. So how you follow up with that though depends. Now, there's a couple ways to look at this in sales too. When people have objections, I also have to assess not just what their objections are. It also has to be an assessment of, am I okay with these objections, right? So if it's something where it's on price point, right? So price point is a big objection. It's a big objection in sales process. So you have to look at it in terms of the rebound part of basketball in the direction, and can you get there quicker? Is it even your fight? Right. So sometimes when I shoot a shot, it goes way past where I can even get to, and it's actually my teammate can get that one instead. So sometimes when it comes to sales and it comes to objections, you may object to the objection. And so you just have to understand, like, what am I willing to do here too? Price strategy, it's good information. So if somebody pushes back on the price, it's good to know, okay, so what about the price? What about the price is bothering you? Or what about the price point um, is showcasing that? either you don't feel like you're going to get your ROI, you don't see the value in it, all those things, because that's good feedback and good information. And then you can react. You can react as a business owner like, okay, so do I feel like these are reasons to work more with this prospect and see about perhaps bringing the price down, or do I need to show them the value that this actually brings? Maybe I didn't do a good job of that. The other thing is that it may show you that you're not willing to bring down the price point at all, just because you know what it's going to take to do the job they want you to do, right? So you kind of assess too. You assess, and you are the best person to assess because you, as the business owner making the offer, taking the shot, you have the best bird's eye view of what's going on in the court. So I like to tell people that when it comes to sales and objections, it's a lot like basketball. I think of it like that. And, I usually will be able to judge a situation really quickly, right? React, pivot, move, not move. Is it somebody else's battle, right? You've got to be able to assess that. Um, and so when I do that, though, then I can really kind of let go of like, okay, this needs to happen this way. Does it absolutely need to go this way? And so that's one of the things that I love about sales and basketball is that, even if there's an objection and I can rebound this and I can move it and turn it and turn it into another shot, maybe I can turn it into a layup even better. Great. Then we'll do that. We'll work on that. If not, then it's also good to just let it go. And that's the beauty of sales is that you don't have to actually push with sales. At least that hasn't been my experience. Well, it's been my push where I thought I need, or it's been my experience where I thought I needed to push, but in fact I did not. So here's the other thing. So in basketball, this is what my dad taught me. Always hit the boards. Always be ready. And I think that this is really good information. Always be ready, always hit the boards, because when things are not completely closed when it comes to sales, you still need to be on the ready. You still can see everything, even if you have a verbal, like, yes, that sounds good, let's move forward. You still have to be ready. Um, and it's not even that you have to be ready to rebound or get in there before you follow through. No, you follow through just as you would with a sales call. And if there's objections, you discuss those objections, you overcome those objections, and hopefully you get the rebound and get in a layup and still make the points. Now, if all goes well, here's the other piece that reminds me of basketball. If all goes well, you get the first shot or you get the rebound and put it back up, you get 2 points. You don't want to stop taking shots after that, right? You still have a whole game. So for us business owners, we may have a whole year or we may have 3 more quarters. But it's not that like, okay, I made my shot. We're like 30 seconds in. Awesome. I'm done for the rest of the game. No, no. You want to take another shot. You want to take another shot. You want to take another shot. You want to learn and you want to be able to react. So when it comes to sales as well, just because you get a big close or you get a close doesn't mean that you're taking the rest of the game off. You're you're not just gonna pass it every time, just like, oh well, I got my 2 points, I'm good. No, you're gonna keep going, you're gonna keep learning. So you got to keep taking shots, you got to keep following through. So then it becomes a process and it becomes ingrained in your brain. This is how I do basketball, or this is how I do my sales. What worked really well. So at the end of any game, any sporting game, of course, and any sales call, you also have to give yourself time to assess, how did that sales call go? Was that was that my best shooting? Was that my best rebounding? Did I feel like I needed to rebound more? Did I feel like I needed to actually follow through more? What did I miss? What went really well? What can I improve on? So you see how like sales and basketball reminds me of each other. So this is kind of what a lot of people either they don't want to give themselves that critical feedback, um And that's okay. Like maybe you're not good at giving yourself feedback. Then you can ask somebody else. You can ask one of your coaches to go through like, hey, I recorded a sales call. Um, and as long as they're willing to, I'd love to see what you thought or any changes. Um, you could go to a colleague, you could go to a spouse and say, I'd love just to have you sit down and give me some feedback on what you thought went really well, what you thought didn't, and give me a third party view of what I'm missing here. And that's good if you made the sale, and that's good if you didn't make the sale. It doesn't have to be just for when things go bad. Feedback is important for when things go good too, because you can always improve. So having the time to assess after the game is important. And in basketball, if you're shooting, what was your shooting percentage? Same thing with sales. What was your sales percentage? Is it something that you want to improve on? If you're at like, if you took like 100 shots and made two, I would say, yeah, that would definitely, you definitely want to work on your shot and your follow through. Um, Same thing with sales. You had 100 calls and you only closed two. You want to check on that too. Um, and then checking both those metrics and those stats and like, even if it's good, do you feel like there's even more room for improvement? And the improvement could be that I think I've got this down, and now it's time to bring in somebody else and teach them and get them to where they can be. And then I can scale my business that way too. So, all this stuff, like you can just see how it all kind of interconnects, and which is really encouraging too, because our real life experiences absolutely go into our business and the transformation that we can have within them. It's all critical thinking. Just you'd be surprised on how many life experiences you have that can relate to what you need to work on in your business, what you're really good at in your business, and how you relate to your business and your employees and colleagues and contractors. It all is very relevant, even if you're not seeing it right this second. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that makes sense. I always like to tell little stories and make comparisons because I think there's a lot of things that you wouldn't think of when it comes to your business that are very much relatable to other experiences outside your business. So if you guys enjoyed this, feel free to share it. Share if you care. Spread the word. Make sure to subscribe to iTunes and Spotify if you have not. And of course, invite others to subscribe as well. So I appreciate you guys. Until next time, bye for now.